Jacob, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm going to call the March 2021 Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Do need to have a movement motion to have this meeting approved to be held electronically through the Zoom streaming pursuant to the Tennessee Governor Bill Lee's executive order. Number 78, I believe, is on our agenda. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion. You're happy to.
Here's a second.
Second motion.
Ms. Ellis, would you like to take a roll call?
Yes, but before I do the roll call for this vote, would you like the roll call for members present first, or?
I can do that first. Yes, I was going to hope for her to be on, but go ahead and do that. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So Patricia Williams is not on yet. Ms. Rowe?
Present.
Ms. Rowe is present. Mr. Corcoran?
Present.
Mr. Corcoran is present. Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Williams is present. Mr. Anderson will be out, I understand, for today's meeting. Ms. Kerr?
Present.
Ms. Kerr is present. Mr. Harden?
Present.
Mr. Harden is present. Ms. Longmire?
Present.
Ms. Longmire is present. Mr. Dykes?
Present.
And Mr. Dykes is present. We have 7 members present. And now I will call the roll for the motion for the meeting to be held in accordance with the governor's order. Ms. Williams is out. Ms. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran?
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Dykes?
Aye.
Mr. Dykes votes aye. I see that Ms. Williams has joined the meeting. I have her counted as present. And Ms. Williams, we're voting now on the motion to hold today's meeting in accordance with the governor's order. Would you like to vote on this motion?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Williams votes aye. We have 8 members voting aye for that motion.
Thank you. And Mr. Harden, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you please lead us in our pledge?
Love to.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Members of the Board of Zoning Appeals are volunteers from each commission district. We do not receive compensation for our work on the board or training that we attend. As a quasi-judicial body, we avoid ex parte conversations and conduct our business in accordance with the Opens Meeting Act. I'm Terry Kerr, the co-chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. James Corcoran is our chairman, and we have Mr. Morton, the law director, with us today. If anyone else that is with us could just it's kind of a little bit hard to do this via Zoom. Let us know who you are with codes or planning, stormwater, engineering. Then Ms. Ellis is here with us with the Knox County Clerk's Office. If anyone else would chime in, please.
Knox County Codes Office here with Steve Elliott, Kelly Vaughn, Kim Jernigan, Tammy Harvey, and Myers Morton representing the Law Director's Office.
Okay, thank you. Our voting procedure requires 5 positive votes for a motion to be approved, regardless of the number of board members that are present. And at the time of the vote we have today, there are 8 members present, I believe. Is that correct? Ms. Ellis?
That is correct. 8 members present.
Thank you. Now I'd like to see if someone would please approve the minutes from February.
I motion.
I so move.
Okay, I think we had Mr. Williams first. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Ms. Ellis, I don't know who you had first. I think I heard Mr. Williams make the motion and second.
I heard Ms. Longmire.
Okay, she's
Is it-
first. Okay, we'll have Ms. Longmire as the motion and Mr. Williams to second.
Okay. Okay, I'll call the roll now.
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Present.
this is for a vote on the minutes.
Oh, approved.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem. Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe,
Aye.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran,
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden,
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire,
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. And Mr. Dykes,
Aye.
Mr. Dykes votes aye. 8 members voting aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our hearing procedure is as follows. The Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to grant variances and hear other matters by the Tennessee Code and the Knox County zoning ordinance. Specifically, these laws prescribe parameters required to grant a variance. The burden of proving the grounds for a variance request rests upon the applicant. For each matter, the clerk will read the request into the record. I will then ask if the applicant is present and then ask if there are opposition or other speakers who wish to present. You don't have to come forward at this time. Once we determine the speakers for the item, we will call on governmental agencies such as Knox County Codes, Planning, or Engineering to make statements regarding the facts pertinent to the property and background of the request. Board members may ask questions of the governmental agencies once they have made their statements. I'll then call on the applicant to come forward and state your name and address for the record and present their evidence and reasoning supporting the granting of a variance. If there is no opposition, applicants have 10 minutes to present your case. If there's opposition, the applicant and opposition will have 15 minutes. After the applicant's presentation, board members may question the applicant. We'll then call for opposition or other parties who have up to 15 minutes to speak. The 15 minutes applies to all parties. So if there are multiple parties that want to speak, please figure out how you're going to divide your time beforehand. After the opponents speak, the board members may ask questions of the opponents. Finally, there'll be a discussion of the case by the board, during which time the commissioners may ask further questions of parties that have already testified. Then the board will make any determinations if it deems necessary. Our bylaws allow an applicant at the initial hearing on a matter to request a deferral of 30 or 60 days without prejudice. In the event of a deferral of an application or failure to appear, any opponents may be heard on the record at a meeting where the application they oppose appears on the agenda. Mr. Law Director, would you please swear in anyone who may be speaking today?
Well, everyone that will be presenting evidence, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Clay McQuaid,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to tell the truth and the whole truth. So help me God. Mr. McQuaid, were you able to repeat that? I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I did.
You did? Okay. Thank you.
Everyone who's speaking, don't forget to unmute yourself when you're speaking as well. I don't think we have any agenda changes or any corrections. I don't think I've seen any deferments that have been requested. So if that is it, then Ms. Ellis, would you mind going ahead and reading our first agenda item?
It's item 4A, a request of America Real Estate Company to appeal Knox Planning Commission's decision for hearing held on February 11th, 2021 to not allow outside storage buildings for the development proposal file number 1-D-21-UR, properties located at 6909 Maynardville Pike, CLT map 038, group KD, parcel 014, property zone CA and PC, Commission District 7.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, ma'am. Clay McQuaid here.
And Wayne Klein on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, do we have any opposition?
Not that we know of.
Okay, doesn't appear to be any on today. Okay, could codes or anyone planning, anyone give us any information and background?
I think codes will defer to planning on this one. That it was a use on review that the applicant had requested approval of an outdoor self-storage facility. Staff recommended denial, so I think we would defer to planning if someone from their staff is on.
Okay, and I'm going to back up for just a moment. Ms. Ellis, do you need the applicants to state their name and address for the record prior to?
Yes, they can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Clay McQuaid, Marketing Company President for U-Haul Company in Knoxville. My address is 3699 Alcoa Highway, 37701.
And I'm Wayne Klein from the firm of Hodges, Daddy and Carson, 617 Main Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37902. I represent America Real Estate and U-Haul Knoxville.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, were you going to speak on behalf of planning? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm Mike Reynolds with Knoxville, Knox County Planning, 400 Main Street, Suite 403. I sorry I wasn't able to attend the pre-agenda meeting. And just a brief explanation of staff's recommendation of denial is the Black Oak Plaza. It's a shopping center. It does have other tenants. This kind of a situation, staff just doesn't feel an outdoor self-storage facility is appropriate. The parking lot changed the character of that shopping center. We feel it would be negative for that shopping center. If this was a standalone building with a standalone parking lot, I think we may have a different perspective on it. But being that it's a shared shopping center with other businesses, we didn't feel that this was an appropriate location for the outdoor self-storage. There may be alternatives to what they have proposed if they provided those outdoor units in a different location, more out of sight or in a totally different type of design structure. But that's not what we're presented with at this time. But we're review with the outdoor storage. It's just not what we thought was appropriate.
Hey, does anyone else from any of our codes or governmental agencies have anything else to add? No. All right.
Codes would add, Mr. Klein did try to submit a petition that he had. It got to us too late to get on the agenda. It didn't meet the 7-day rule. So we would ask Mr. Klein to share his screen today or share with you guys that petition. And I think maybe he did email it to everyone, but unfortunately it got to us too late and we couldn't get it onto the agenda.
Yes,
Okay.
the petition went in the record, and the petition is over 150 signatures in support of the application. And so can I start then?
Yes, I'm fine with you starting.
Thank you. Board members, I represent U-Haul and America Real Estate. U-Haul is attempting to revitalize the former Kmart Center at Black Oak Plaza in Halls. U-Haul wants to purchase the old Kmart building with adjacent strip center and the Kroger building, and it had an adjacent strip center. It's already been demolished. This area has become blighted. Homeless people have moved in. Many of the tenants in the center have left, and more are leaving. U-Haul wants to revitalize, bring this commercial entity back by purchasing the Kmart building and all of the buildings, including the 16 acres, 15.96 acres of land. Most of it is parking. And so we went before Planning Commission. Just a brief history. Mr. McQuaid was supposed to speak, and just as his item came up at 4:30 p.m. at the Planning Commission meeting, he got disconnected somehow. By the time he reconnected, Planning Commission had voted consistent with the recommendation of the planning body, and so he never got to speak. And so we're here on this appeal asking, because Planning Commission approved that the Kmart building be approved according to the recommendation, we're asking you to allow 3 mini buildings on the perimeter of this property to be placed. And the reason is that you can't see from Maynardville Highway what's going on back at the old Kmart building, which will be a U-Haul center. And so we need these buildings up front, but they're not going to interfere with the traffic pattern. They're not going to interfere with the parking. In fact, there's going to be so much parking, it's ridiculous. So we have no present remedy to take that argument before Planning Commission. We're asking you to please listen to Mr. McQuaid, and I'm going to defer to him to allow these mini storage outbuildings to be placed on the perimeter of this property so that the public can see what's going on in the plaza, because the Kmart building is so distant from Maynardville Highway. And so respectfully, I will defer to Mr. McQuaid so that he gets his time this time to discuss this with you and we can take questions. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Good
Mr.
afternoon. I'm sorry, I was waiting for an invite there. Again, my name is Clay McQuaid. I'm the marketing company president for U-Haul Company of Knoxville at 3699 Alcoa Highway, 37701 at my office. Our goal here is to purchase the former Kmart building, the retail strip center and parking lots in the Black Oak Plaza, and repurpose the Kmart property. This site was originally designed and developed with a Kroger grocery store, 2 retail strip centers, and a Kmart. Today, the Krogers and 1 retail strip center have been demolished and Kmart is gone and the building empty. To this point, a little backstory on the previous ownership. The Slate Company is a global investment and asset manager with offices in 4 different countries, owning 75 shopping centers. This organization specializes in backfilling and revitalizing properties like this one. Slate acquired this property in 2016 and since early 2017 has been unsuccessful backfilling the Kmart. U-Haul has an outstanding proven track record of a creative reuse of sites just like this one. U-Haul, a Fortune 500 company, will bring the anchor to the plaza, which is so desperately needed. We look forward to the boost in business and occupancy to the site. I need this board's help and support on approving the site plan with minis in the parking lot to move forward with this project. It is my understanding that each of you can view my submittals. I'm not sure if we got them all in there or not, but I'll go over them with you. We have a rendition of what we are proposing and generally what it will look like. We have our proposed site plan with the positioning of the mini storage, which we have considerably reduced to gain favor and acceptance with staff. We started with 10 buildings, went down to 5, we're down to 3. We also have, as an example of how we can make the mini storage more attractive and aesthetically pleasing, and we are open to suggestions. Finally, I have submitted petitions, signatures by the folks soliciting our businesses that work, live, and shop in this area. I can clearly say we have substantial support from the community. U-Haul prides itself in providing first-class secured storage for our customers' household goods. And we do not allow any flea market or retail sales out of the units if that's even a concern. It is imperative for any business to create an awareness of the products and services they offer to the drive-by public. This Kmart building is over 900 feet back from the road frontage, and no mini storage in the parking lot simply won't work for us. Us owning the Kmart building and the strip center, every business in this complex must be successful, and our proven plan does exactly that. In closing, I would like to share my confidence in the success of this project and look forward to serving the Hall's community with our needed services and products. Again, I'm dependent on this board's approval. U-Haul, a publicly traded Fortune 500 company, is ready to invest millions into this community with your help. Thank you for your consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any of our Board members have any questions? Mr. Corcoran?
Yeah, this is for the planning commission. I guess I'm trying to understand the logic. Is compatible with the rest of the businesses there and why external self-storage isn't.
I'm sorry, I missed part of your beginning of your statement, but I think I got the gist of what you're asking, of the difference between compatibility between indoor storage versus the outdoor storage in the shopping center. And well, the indoor storage, obviously that's going to be within a structure. Really, indoor storage has been viewed from, I guess, our staff and the planning commission in general to be compatible with a lot of different types of uses. We feel pretty comfortable with it being around office uses, around edges of neighborhoods, on commercial districts, and everything's indoor, so it's really does, from the exterior, does not impact much of anybody. The outdoor self-storage is where it's out in the parking lot. I think that fundamentally changes the character of the shopping center. It definitely visually creates that difference. This would be the first time we've seen something like this in Knoxville. I don't think it's necessarily an intention of this type of use being put into shopping centers. In the shopping center zone, for instance, so this is not zone shopping center, so let's get that out there. Self-storage is not a permitted use, so this wouldn't even be permissible in a shopping center zone. This property is on planned commercial and CIA general business, so it is something that can be considered. If the outdoor self-storage were located in a different part of the site, more out of sight, or designed differently, maybe we would have a different perspective on it. But really, the way it's presented as part of this application was not something that we could support.
You said there hasn't been anything like this in a shopping center. I'm just trying to think, isn't there an outdoor storage facility in the shopping center at the downtown west area, just a little bit outside of the mall? You know what I'm talking about?
That one is, that one is, it's probably a hybrid indoor outdoor shopping indoor storage, and I think that was built integral to the pretty much the same time as the shopping center was constructed. That one is a little bit different. It feels more like an indoor facility, though I think it does have some doors that do open up outward, but it is more of a structured facility.
I mean, it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, more the concerns are aesthetic in nature. Is that a fair characterization, or is there some more specific harm that you're worried about?
That's part of it, but really it's just the storage units in the parking lot is just not staff and the planning commission did not feel that was a compatible use and would change the character of the shopping center.
Thank you.
Ms. Longmire, I think you had your hand up next.
Yes, I drive by the so-called shopping center very often, and it's not a shopping center anymore. It's mainly a huge parking lot with unused buildings. So I think any use that is compatible with the zoning, which is not shopping center, would be fine. My one question would be, would it require a chain link fence around the property?
I can answer that question. No, we would not fence it in. We don't do that.
Okay. Thank you.
It would be open. I mean, where it's at in the parking lot, basically where we're going to position them is exactly where the parking was set up for, a car. So all the driveways, everything will all be in, none of it will be obstructed in any way. And it'll all be open so people can come in and go out just like they always have been. But we don't put chain link fences around our properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
I just took my hand down. For whatever reason, I lost all audible for about 30 or 45 seconds. So I don't know if this was just discussed or not, but I was reading that it is characterized as drive-in storage. Is that what y'all were discussing?
No, you want me to answer?
I do, because it says that, and I went out there and spent some time just kind of looking around yesterday. If it is described, and I have it down as described as drive-in storage, could you explain that?
Well, we do have drive-in storage in the building. In other words, we have a loading bay that you can drive into and secure yourself inside the building to load or unload. But what we're talking about here is that they're outside mini storage where you would drive up and you know, open your door and load your things in and secure them and leave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I was going to see if Codes, could you put on your screen, could you show the site? And I thought I understood, Mr. McQuaid, you said it was not visible, that it was kind of hidden, but then someone else said it was not. Could you just pull that up? I may have misunderstood that, but.
KJS. Do you want KJS or the site plan that they submitted?
I think the site plan first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think that I have missed a hand here. Don't see. I thought I'd missed a hand. Oh, Mr. Harden, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the old Kmart place. I don't live far from there. Pass by the place daily almost. It is not a shopping center anymore. It's like someone said, it's 90% a parking lot. Even an ugly parking lot is in need of repair, a lot of repair. If there's been nobody else even interested in this building, I'm all for U-Haul taking it and rehabbing it, because anything would be better than what's there now. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Codes, could you highlight where the 3 exterior buildings would be? Was that correct this morning?
You see there where the cursor is, that is the 2 that's up next, and to the left side of the site plan is Mainville Highway. On the lower portion is Neal Drive. So they're proposing 3 buildings, 1 fronting closer to Neal and 2 fronting closer to Mainville Highway.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Codes regarding the plat? All right, and I thought I saw a couple extra people pop in. I just wanted to check again to make sure we didn't have any opposition.
Terry, I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm holding my hand up, but I don't know whether you can see me.
I can see you now. Okay, go ahead.
I guess this is for Codes. I can understand where on the CA, outdoor storage units are a use on review. But in PC, I don't really see anything about that except one item on page 174 in the zoning ordinance that says there are restrictions on outdoor storage, but I don't think that's storage units. So if Codes could clarify if it is allowed in the PC, that would help.
It would be my interpretation, it's allowed in both zones with the use on review, but I'm going to defer to Mike and let Mike speak to that. He's a little more well-versed than I am.
Yeah, we had determined that this wouldn't be considered outdoor storage, and that it's not, you know, the storage is happening within the structure, so it's not happening into the open. So I think that's the fundamental difference here. It's not like they're storing pallets of wood or other things for that would be on the site. So I hope that answers the question.
So it's not even a use on review in the PC portion, is that correct?
Well, pretty much everything is use on review in the PC zone. There's no, that has some general categories of the types of uses that are permissible within the PC zone. It talks about office, commercial service, and light distribution centers being permissible. But it just gives these broad uses. So pretty much anything that comes before the planning commission or that we feel fits within that general scope of land use category can be considered by the planning commission for approval through the use on review process.
Thank you.
Ms. Longmire?
I would like to thank the applicant for reaching out to the neighbors and for providing us with information that shows the support of the neighborhood. I really appreciate when they do that.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions, or is someone ready to make a motion? Mr. Harden, I think this is your district. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, my hand's up, but sorry. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the indoor and the outdoor units, storage units.
Second.
I just had a question. I don't think that we had anything to do with the indoor, correct? We were just trying, this was to appeal the Knox Planning Commission's decision to not allow the outside storage, just to make a note. Okay, Ms. Ellis, would you like to take a roll call? There's no other questions?
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran?
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr?
Nay.
Ms. Kerr votes no. Mr. Harden? Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. And Mr. Dyke, Ms. Longmire, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Dykes?
Nay.
Mr. Dykes votes no. 6 members voting aye, 2 members voting no.
Thank you all.
Okay, that was approved.
Thank you.
Move on to our next agenda, 4B.
Hey, Terry, can I say something first?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing your hand because it's blending in with your background. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. McQuaid, I think you sent me an email earlier, and I could not respond to it because according to our law director, I'm not allowed to respond to any applicants. So I wish I could have, but I couldn't. So sorry, I just want to make that publicly clear.
No, I learned a lesson. I did not realize that. And Mr. Klein helped me with that. And I just did not realize I could not petition y'all. And I appreciate that very much, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we get who made the motion and who seconded the motion for our records, please?
Yes, Mr. Harden made the motion. And who did second that motion?
Ms. Longmire.
Ms. Longmire. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Corcoran?
Yeah, I was just thinking sort of for the record, perhaps Mr. Harden, if you could clarify that any contact that happened ex parte didn't impact your decision.
It did not impact my decision at all. I mean, he just asked to talk to me through by way of email, and I never responded.
Thanks. I figured it'd be appropriate to have that on the record today.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, Ms. Ellis?
The next item is item 4B, request of Ronald Schrank. Hope I'm pronouncing that correct. This is for a waiver to allow accessory building to be located between the principal structure and the street, located at 1719 Marietta Church Road, CLT 129, parcel 137, zone agricultural in the 6th Commission District.
Does codes or planning, anyone have any comments to make?
Coach Cam, the applicant is requesting to place an accessory structure in front of the primary in this case. If you look at your site plan, the applicant has several hurdles with their septic system where they can't put the, I guess, the carport to the side of the house. So the only real location for them to put the carport is on their driveway out in front of the primary structure. So in the zone, it requires any accessory structures to be located behind the front of the house. So that's why the applicant is here.
Okay, if the applicant would state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Ronald Schwanke. I live at 1719 Marietta Church Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37932.
Okay, do we have any opposition on the record? Needs to be on the record? I don't think so. So, all right, could you give us the reason for your request and any evidence supporting your request?
Yeah, my wife is about 70% handicapped, and I'm looking for a covered structure for her to park under to enter the house off the one level in the front instead of the stairs in the back. Either end of the house has a septic and leach field on either end. So I really can't place it there in the back. There's too many steps for her to come up. And that's about it.
Okay, Mr. Williams, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I tried to get this in before we wrapped up the last. If I remember right, the law director suggested that we make a statement after voting yes or no. Does that ring a bell? Just to
Correct.
reiterate what the vote was. Does that make sense?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I thought we had done that. Do we need to, Mr. Law Director, make a revision?
I think the clerk said we had 6 votes to against.
Okay.
I think the clerk's statement would suffice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I apologize, Mr. Swanky. Does anyone else have any questions regarding his request? Well, I did drive to your property and, take a look. I also was just kind of asking codes earlier. It looks to me as well that you have kind of you're on a corner lot, so you have kind of 2 front setbacks. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that we were okay within our setbacks, though. Is that not correct, codes, with that?
Yes, that is correct. And I'm sorry, I should have stated that in the opening statement. They meet all applicable setbacks. The only variance they need is to allow the accessory structure to be in front of the primary.
Okay. No other place. Again, I was just kind of looking at the property myself, and then when you looked at your information that was sent regarding the layout of the septic tanks, et cetera, I can see a little bit of issue for you, having a little bit of a problem to be able to do that. So
Yes.
No other place on the property that
The back has stairs coming into the house, and I'm trying to alleviate that. Just
Okay.
put a nice gentle sloped walkway from the front carport to the front porch.
could you do a ramp in lieu of?
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be just pavers, but it's going to be just an earth ramp that goes from the carport area to the end of the front porch, it'll all be a single smooth transition.
Okay. Do any other commissioners have any questions? Ms. Rowe?
I just wanted to make the comment, it's not really a structure as such. It's a carport, just an open.
Correct, open.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd like to make a motion. I'll move that agenda item 4B, excuse my paperwork, 4B, that we approve the waiver to allow an accessory building to be located between the principal structure and the street due to his septic tank locations, and a few other items with topography to be able to put the structure anywhere else.
Second.
Okay, we have I don't know who did the second first. I think Mr. Harden may have. Would you like to take a roll, Ms. Ellis?
Miss Williams.
Aye.
Miss Williams votes aye. Miss Rowe.
Aye.
Miss Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran.
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr.
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire.
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. And Mr. Dykes.
Aye.
Mr. Dykes votes aye. You have 8 members voting aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Myers Morton, may I interject?
Yes.
Mr. Williams asked a very important question last time, and I didn't hear all of it. He was asking about stating the reasons for a decision, and he's absolutely correct. In the case where a variance is allowed, and you've done that in this case, I did not understand and hear Mr. Williams' question previously. That wasn't a variance, that was appeal of a MPC decision. But to go beyond and allow a variance does require, as you were asking, specific findings, which the chairman in this case did make. So I'm sorry if I didn't understand your question correctly, but yes, it's very crucial that when their variance is given, that the reasons be found by the board. So thank you, sir. Pardon my not hearing correctly. Thank you, Chairman.
So we are good with the first agenda item then, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and moving on to agenda item 4C.
It's a request of Tommy Eagleston. It's for a waiver of front yard setback from 35 feet to 7 feet and to allow the accessory building to extend into the front yard located at 10125 Bob Gray Road, CLT map 118, Group CG, parcel 006, property zone plan residential in the 6th Commission District.
Okay, thank you. We have any statements from codes or planning?
Yes, the applicant is requesting, as stated, a waiver of the front yard, or a variance from the front yard setback, and a waiver of allowing an accessory structure to be in front of the primary. As we talked about in the pre-meeting, in the PR zone, it talks about accessory structures, and when they're not controlled by periphery, you defer to the RA zone. So my office interprets that all applicable, everything in the RA zone will be applicable in the PR zone at that point, and that's where the accessory structure for the primary comes from. In the PR zone, there's no, really no talk of where an accessory structure can be located, but it's been our interpretation that when we defer to the RA zone, all applicable requirements for that zone is applied to the PR zone.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, is the applicant present?
Yes.
I don't see anybody. Am I missing you? Are you on Galaxy S10?
Yes. I've never used Zoom, so.
Oh,
here
there
I
you
am.
are. There you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you mind stating your name and address for the record?
Tommy Eggleston, 10125 Bob Gray Road, Knoxville, 37923.
Okay, and if you could give us the reason for your request and any supporting evidence you have to ask us to allow it.
You know, I have a couple of adults still living in my house, kids. My kids are older, one in college, and there's no way to put it in the backyard just because I have a pool and the lay of the land. And it's the way the house is there's 6 houses in a row, and at the end of my drive, there's only one way in and one way out. And we're always got so many cars in the driveway, I'm having to back up to the neighbor's driveway to even get out without having to go through my yard and stuff. So I'm just needing more space to park cars and extra, storage, I guess, so to speak. And there's just no way to do it in the backyard. So because of the lay of the land, having a fence and privacy fence for protection because of my pool. But that's it's my reason. Just hoping, it can be done. That's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Longmire, your hand is up.
What is the accessory building? What's it going to be?
It's a 2-car garage.
And that would be for that.
I'm sorry?
A metal 2-car garage?
Yes.
Metal 2-car garage?
Yes. And at the end
Does
of
that metal building, does that fit in with the rest of the community? Does having a metal building fit in?
What it does to me. No.
I know.
Yeah.
Are there any other metal buildings in the?
Well, there's a trailer park right beside of me.
They're metal.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
It'll look a lot better
Thank
than
you.
some of them trailers.
I think there, it did appear that one of the homes had a structure in the back.
Correct.
If I'm not
Now, it used
mistaken.
to, we had a homeowners association years ago, and I've been there 18 years. September will be 18, and and that may have been why, because of that, and then having a homeowners association. But we do not have it anymore. Hadn't had it for years, so we're kind of our own little deal. I'm good friends with all the neighbors, and I've actually painted the fence and stuff out front because, just trying to make it look better. I kind of got all that together and took, ownership of that. There's white block with black wrought iron picket fence in front, and I've got that looking real nice. So just, I'm needing more space and just for cars, because I'm always having to back into my neighbor's, his area, his drive to get out of my driveway. So if I can park a couple cars in the garage, it'll give me more space to where I can just back up to the garage and pull out.
So it looks like, Code, you're putting some topography up. Can you discuss the topography in the back for us? I know there's a pool there. I can clearly see that.
And there's hills on all the way around of my property.
Yes, the pool is on the only flat area. You can see the topography issues he's up against off the map we've shared here with you.
And there's not a whole lot of room on either side. I mean, the right side would be a little more room, but it's, I got hills on both sides of the pool. So it's just to me, it's not a good access in and out trying to, being able to build something back there either.
So anyway, if you're just looking for more space and turnaround, Coach, you can answer this too. I know your request is to have a building. Could you just extend the concrete there where that drive ends to be able to, back from your driveway and turn around?
Well, I'm trying to keep my cars. I'd like to be able to park them inside too.
None.
I got some big pine trees that, they just stay covered up from all the pollen. I ain't never seen trees with so much pollen as these pine trees that run along the trailer park. It just, I'd like to be able to build a 2-car garage and keep my stuff cleaner. I have lawnmowers.
I definitely understand that. I think that, maybe Mr. Morton, you had said it earlier, one of the things that we do look at, and it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, from the zoning and such, I think we're probably okay. I think the other side for me is, I don't feel like a metal garage fits in with the conformity of the neighborhood. I do know that it looks like there is a metal kind of carport on one of the third or fourth house in, I suppose, on the right side of the house. So I don't think the garage in front of the house fits with the conformity of the community. I don't know where that kind of puts us, Mr. Morton, as far as where how we vote. If we are in a position where it's zoned to where we're, allowed to approve it, I don't know how far we can go on the other side. I feel like a metal building there would, I don't have a picture of it, of course, don't see anything, but there would be an issue with, the value of, would that affect the value of the neighborhood?
I will note that topography has a lot to do with your authority to grant a variance. And I've started topography, and there's been no Tennessee judicial opinion that defines topography. In the law dictionary I've looked at, there's no definition of topography, but in Webster's dictionary, they've got a definition of topography, and I hope everybody can hear me, but I'm going to read part of it. This is the definition of topography: the art or practice of graphic delineation in detail, usually on maps or charts, of natural and man-made features of a place or a region, especially in a way to show their relative position and elevations. So my point being is topography includes, in this circumstance, the road, the trees, the ditch, I guess, the lay of the land in the back of his home, his fence. And so in this situation, topography includes the natural and the man-made aspects of the neighborhood. As I sit here, I do not remember a factor being the siding of a home, the metal. You are required, if you grant a variance, to make a finding that you're trying to alleviate exceptional and undue hardships, but and a variance would, a strict application of let me start over with that. You do have to make a finding that there's no hardship. Let me find the proper language. Provided, if you decide to provide a variance, such relief, there should not be substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinances. I don't know if the zone plan or the zoning ordinances talk about the metal, it being a metal building or brick or wood. I don't remember that. I can't say one way or the other if that is part of the zoning ordinance that you're looking at. But if you grant a variance, it cannot have a detriment to the public good. And how you determine what public good is
Right.
look at the neighborhood.
Subjective.
And look at the context of the entire zoning ordinance. And not to impair the intent and purpose of zoning plan, but to be specific, I don't know where the fact that this is a metal building specifically would be objectionable or not. It may be part of your puzzle to determine whether or not it's for the public good or the intent and purpose of the zone plan. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did that answer your question?
It did, yes, that's fine. I'm looking at the size now of the building as well. So you have there's been, you've talked to all your neighbors about this?
I haven't talked to all of them, but you guys put the sign out.
That's right, yeah.
Nobody has said anything. I know my neighbor beside of me was fine with it. But like I said, I've done a bunch of, trying to keep the place looking nice, and the building is going to match. It's a nice looking building, and it's going to be matching my house pretty much, as far as colors. I'm going to be matching the garage doors to my existing garage doors on the house. So it's not like it's going to be just a cheap building.
Right. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
I would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Metal doesn't mean metal doesn't look like metal anymore.
Agreed.
Oftentimes that metal looks more like vinyl. It's colored, it's textured, and various other things. I considered that as well. You can get it, appearing in many textures and colors and everything. And I was wondering, Mr. Eggleston, what color is your building? You said that it's going to coordinate with your home and the other other properties in the area.
Yes, that is correct. I'm gonna have it as close as I can get it to match my house.
Okay.
Gonna be a two-tone. We'll have a wainscoting at the bottom. Like you said, they don't really look like metal buildings almost anymore. There's some nice looking buildings, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Is that all, Miss Williams? I think so. Miss Rowe, I think you had your hand up.
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. I had a couple of questions. Did you all build the pool there and the house or did you just buy it and it was already there? Or
I bought the house. When I bought it, it was 3 years old, and I built the pool a year after that.
okay.
So the pool's been there for about 16 and a half years or so, I guess.
Okay. And the building, I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding. It's 24 by 26. What are the 43 and 49 markers? Is that the setbacks?
Well, that's each side of the property.
Okay.
The setback 7 foot from the front.
And 43 from the sides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone have anything else? If not, I will make a motion. Sorry, didn't mean to grill you so much. I don't necessarily like the location of the building. However, I am going to move that agenda item 4C, which is the waiver of the front yard setback from 35 feet to 7 feet, be approved to allow the accessory structure to extend in the front yard due to your hardship of topography. You do have some topography issues.
Yes.
That's my motion.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
I think Ms. Longmire was in there to second first. Ms. Ellis, could you take a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe.
No.
Ms. Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran.
No.
Did you say no?
No.
Mr. Corcoran votes no. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr.
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
No.
Mr. Harden votes no. Ms. Longmire.
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Dykes.
No.
Mr. Dykes votes no. We have 4 members voting aye and 4 members voting no.
Okay, so at this time, do we just go ahead, Mr. Corcoran?
I did have one question for the applicant, especially since it's a 4 votes affirmative type situation. One of the things we're supposed to do on this board is make sure that any impact to the community at large is sort of mitigated. And my estimation is the logic behind our ordinance saying that you can't have an accessory structure in the front of your house is kind of aesthetic based, or it's supposed to make it look nice.
Yes.
Is there some way you could you put in some sort of vegetative screen, like some trees in front of it, where as you're going down Bob Gray Road, where you couldn't so much as see it from the main street? Is there enough room there?
No, not with the fence and there's a structure of wrought iron picket fence with white columns. And that's basically pretty much close to the line of my land in the front. And there's really, it'd have to be on the opposite side of the fence. And that's not really my property, but I end up, I mow it. Everybody on that whole 6 houses there mows on the other side of the fence, which is, like state property, I guess. But there's really no room for trees in between, though. If that answers your question.
It does, but I think it actually raises another question for codes, though. If it's as true as he's saying that strip that's on the other side of his wrought iron fence is owned by the state, is this actually still a front yard? I guess is the question I've got for codes.
Yes, it's actually Knox County right away, and it would still be considered a front.
Yeah, I really don't know.
The thing is, it's still a little ambiguous of, nothing in the PR zone says the accessory structure is not allowed in the front yard. It's our interpretation. It's implied that it's not. The terminology is you refer to the RA zone, and again, the RA zone says they're not. So that it is a little ambiguous if it is allowed or it isn't allowed.
I guess does codes have an opinion? Is there anything that could be done to sort of screen the view of this from the main road?
It is, as long as they put trees along the fence there to screen the structure. It looks like there's plenty of right of way there. We wouldn't have opposition to landscaping on the outside of that fence, as long as it didn't block sight distance for anyone, and it doesn't appear it would.
Okay.
So you're referring to the trees being not on his property, but the Knox County property. Is that what you're saying?
To be honest, I'm just thinking if there's any way to have some sort of screen, it would kind of reduce any aesthetic impact.
Ms. Longmire?
Rather than trees, there are a significant number of shrubs that could be planted there that would be even more screening than trees would. Laurels, for example, that actually could be planted between the fence and the back of the accessory building because they wouldn't take up as much root space as a tree would be. So I think there are ways of landscaping to make it more aesthetically pleasing.
Again, I guess this question, oh, sorry. Were you done, Ms. Longmire?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Not running 100% today. For the applicant, do you think you could do some sort of landscaping or shrubbery or something to sort of minimize how much of it can be seen from the road?
Without doing something kind of tall, I mean, I just don't really see it personally. But and I got trailers in this right beside of me are, probably 40, 50 years old. I mean, it's kind of trashy looking. I hate to say that, but you can see the fence right now. That was before it was painted. I mean, I'm not going to do something that's going to look bad. I think it's going to match perfect pretty much with my house. Like she mentioned a while ago, metal buildings don't really look like metal buildings anymore. They, I know it's kind of hard to, justify that, but they don't. I mean, there's metal buildings. Some of them are looking, I mean, they look really good nowadays. So I just personally don't think it's going to look that bad. Or I wouldn't do it. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it.
I mean, would it be safe to say that whatever you're intended to build, you plan on having it be consistent with sort of the aesthetic of your side of the street, I guess?
Yes. And I'm trying to match it to the colors of my house already. And like I said, the garage doors are going to match. I put new garage doors in a couple of years ago. They're going to be the same doors that's with my house. So, I'm trying to match it as good as possible to where it'll look nice. It's, to me, just planting something in between the fence and the buildings, just not much room, and it'd just be hard to maintain too. Trying to do something like that.
I think with that the unique part of this case is we're supposed to consider the kind of the character of the neighborhood and the impact of buildings going to have on it. And this one, it's the way where the applicant's positioned, it's really kind of on a transition. Like, we've got some more established houses, and then immediately on the other side of his property, it's, more, the trailers. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's very much a different aesthetic. I think since the applicant is assuring us that he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that this structure is consistent with, I guess, the houses that are adjacent to him, I guess, to the left or along that private drive, I think that's going to satisfy me. So if perhaps if we could make the motion again.
Okay, Mr. Harden, do you want to?
Just make a comment. There's 49 feet from his house to the new structure. Can't we just move it closer to the house a few feet? Then he'll have enough room to plant trees or bushes next to the fence. I mean, it wouldn't take much to move it. I mean, 3 feet would probably accommodate the trees. Just a thought.
Are you wanting me to say something?
Not really. I'm just throwing it out there for the group to comment on.
Oh, okay.
But you can too.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to keep it in line with my existing drive that's coming down through there as well, to make it look more uniform, straight away, because that drive comes all the way in. It's all concrete. So I'm just trying to make it all look uniform as well.
Okay, so I can, what would I need to do? Just make a subsequent motion? Do I need to do that again?
I think it's just a new motion since we've already voted on the other one.
Can we just do a new roll call? or no?
New motion.
New motion, okay.
Mhm.
All right, then I move that agenda item 4C be approved as requested, waiver of the front yard setback from 35 feet to 7 feet to allow the accessory structure to extend into the front yard due to topography issues on the lot.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
Ms. Longmire. Okay,
Second.
right. Calling the roll. Ms. Williams? Sorry, Ms. Williams?
Question, is this his house on the screen here, codes?
Yes.
That's his house.
Could you move it a little to the, move it over some to see the car and the driveway there? Yeah, just a little bit. No, come on back.
Good?
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna have to pass on this or either enter conversation. I realize the vote has started.
Okay, so Ms. Williams passes. Ms. Rowe?
No.
Ms. Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran?
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams?
I lost volume from the time the motion was made, move the building further off the fence. Williams just said it's going to pass, so I have no knowledge of what was discussed.
I did not understand that. Did you?
I did not.
Okay.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Maybe could you cut your video off for a minute and repeat that? We might pick you up better. Or your video, maybe. Yeah.
Mr. Williams?
Okay. I was not able to hear any of you since it was mentioned by Ms. Harbin to move the structure until Ms. Williams just said that she was going to pass.
I really didn't hear you either, Commissioner Williams. You're breaking up quite badly. And I guess since you mentioned my name, I'd like to know what you were saying. Is it possible to repeat it now that you have your video off?
Okay, can y'all hear me better now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just moved outside. I was not able to, I lost all volume from the time that Mr. Harbin suggested moving the structure to the point where Miss Williams said that she wanted to pass. So I don't have any knowledge of what was discussed between that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I had actually made another motion to approve the request.
Okay.
It was the same motion. So we were voting on the second motion.
To approve the
Yes,
request.
to approve the request. I move to approve agenda item 4C as requested, waiver of front yard setback from 35 feet to 7 feet to allow the accessory structure extend into the front yard due to topography issues of his land.
I would vote aye.
Okay, Mr. Williams votes aye. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden?
No.
Mr. Harden votes no. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Dykes?
Nay.
Mr. Dykes votes no. And does the pass wish to vote?
Well, looking at the land, it just appears that it's quite level and there's quite a bit of room there that it could be moved a little further away from the fence, as well as toward the trailer park side, I'll say. And not so much obstruct, it'll still be in the front yard, but it wouldn't obstruct the view of the house so much. And it appears to me it could be just shifted around just a little bit to not obstruct the house as much. So I'm gonna have to go with a no.
Miss Ella, I was never called on.
Okay, I had you recorded as a no vote, but how would you like to vote, Ms. Rowe?
On the second vote, I was never called on, but no.
Okay. Well, we have 4 no's. I'm sorry, 4 ayes and 4 no's again.
We're still there.
On roll call number 2.
Okay.
Is it possible to, Mr. Eggleston, you said that you were placing it there in order to line up with the concrete paving. And I'm thinking you could pour more concrete and extend it a little further toward the other side of the lot, you know, to where it's not in the front of your house so much, obstructing your street view. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, that's a possibility, but like I said, them trees are just they've gotten bigger and bigger over the years. I mean, you know, if that's what it takes to be able to for you guys to approve this, then you know I can make it a little closer towards the trees, maybe another 5 or 10 foot, maybe. I just kind of hate to get them trees, you know, from possibly falling or whatever, you know, coming into factor and damaging the building. I mean, I've had a couple limbs fall out of them already on my side. I just didn't want to get back into them.
I understand. And of course, if in doing so, you could also allow more than 7 feet from the fence or from your property line there. Just, you know, push it back and up a little bit. And another thing I'd like to add, Mr. Eggleston, is, of course, anything that overhangs into your property, you have control over. So if you wanted to cut everything hanging over the fence on those trees, you certainly could do so.
Yeah, I could, but I as much like I said, the trailer park's just not the greatest thing to look at, and for me, and I'll try to, you know, keep it as it's just not a pretty eye for me to look at all the time. I'm sorry, but it's
yes, sir.
It's old trailer park, and as much coverage as I can have is better.
I see. I'm not saying cut them down at all.
I understand, but I'm just trying to make it look uniform and look like it, you know, what I think it would look really good. And I if that's what it takes, whatever you guys want, if I need to move it back a little bit, I don't care to do either way.
Not sure whose hand was up first, Codes or Miss Longmire. Codes, would you like to?
I would just.
Was up first.
I would like to interject that the structure is actually going to be about 33 to 34 feet off the edge of Bob Gray Road. I mean, there's about 26 feet of right of way there. and he's 7 feet off the fence. So that's like 33 feet off the edge of pavement. So, you know, unlike in a standard lot, you know, where the lot abuts the street, you know, the structure is a lot further off of Bob Gray Road than what it would appear because of the JPE that accesses his property.
Thank you.
Ms. Longmire?
Looking at the picture of his house and yard, to me, it's very apparent that he is what we call house proud. The lot and the house are very well kept. So I feel like that he will make every effort to make it as pleasing to his neighbors as to himself.
That's true, very true. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to ask too, looking at the paperwork I have, it looks like you are going to put that building just right there at the end of where the basketball goal is, right there. Is that correct? You're going to build right there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I think that might have been, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Williams, that might have been one of the things she was saying. I'm not as bothered by seeing it from the Bob Gray, which it doesn't really matter what I'm bothered by, but I think that maybe one of her things was pushing it down a little further so it's just not completely obstructing the front of the house. How tall is the building? Did it say?
I think the studs are 8 foot, so I don't even really remember how tall, but it's, you know, it's just a regular 2-car garage. It'll be no higher than my garage now. So you know, I'm, like I said, I'm just trying to make it, I can assure you it's gonna look really nice, and I'm gonna match it. The fence you see right there right now in the picture looks 10 times better than what it is in the picture. I've done that myself, painted it all the way to the other end. So I can assure you I'm gonna make it look good.
Okay, so with the vote being 4 nays, I think it was 3 nays and a pass, would we now make another motion?
Yes, because that motion failed,
Correct.
that vote failed, so.
Correct. Okay.
And it was 4 and 4 because Ms. Williams changed her vote to from a pass to a no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No problem.
Okay.
Ms. Carr.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I wanted to ask Mr. Eggleston if, as you were pointing out, if it could be pushed maybe 5 feet over, about 5 feet over from the goal, or not, you know, pushed over a little bit further. I could go with that.
More towards the trailer park.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
About just about 5 feet. It
Sure.
won't be so obstructing to your home.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I can do that.
I can go with that. How does anyone else feel about that?
There would be no issues with then any type of setbacks, correct, codes on the right side of the property if you did that?
Well, it's showing 43 feet. And,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be fine.
Right. It should be. That's why I said only 5 feet, because that would make it at 38. And I believe the setback is should be, well, they still be well within the setback.
I'm assuming just was fine. There was nothing that was unusual there.
Codes, would it still?
Yes, it's moving the building 5 feet. It would still meet the setbacks. The side yard setback in the PR zone is only 5 feet. So
it's RA. So it's
it's RA. It's 8 feet. I'm sorry, because we've deferred to the RA zone. So the minimum setback is 8 feet off the side yard.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the way it is, or 5 feet still going to be sitting in front of the house. So, yeah, Miss Williams, would you like to make a motion with that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the request, no, it's the first time I've done this. The request for waiver of front yard setback from 35 feet to 7 feet. Well, be amended to be approved with an additional 5 feet. Somebody else do that.
Mr. Chairman, this is,
We're amending we're amending the request by asking for it to be another 5 feet over.
and Mr. Chairman, this is Myers Morton. I don't know if the board has the authority to tell this man what his application is and change his application. The question is if he's asking for a variance of the zoning ordinance and this board's voting whether to grant it or not. I don't know that we have the authority to tell him how to change what he's asking to do. I'm sorry.
Well,
okay,
Mr. Well, I'm simply trying to break the tie and so that he can get what so he's agreeable to it, and I'm making an attempt to break the tie in good conscience. But if I'm not attempting to tell him what to do. I'm trying to be able to.
Mr. Corcoran, do you have something that can help?
Yeah, Mr. Law Director, at the very least, your predecessor had indicated that we were able to grant variances with additional conditions that would minimize the impact on the surrounding neighborhood. I could take an attempt to rephrase what my colleague Ms. Williams has been trying to state. Perhaps a motion to approve the variance with the additional requirement that the planned accessory building be built an additional 5 feet to the east along Bob Gray Road, and referencing the attachment that was included in the application that had, I guess, I don't know if we call it a site plan, but the diagram that was attached.
If the property owner is essentially amending his application and saying that that's where he'll build it, then he can do that. Then I think, Mr. Chairman, it's a new issue for me. But
I'm sorry. I was as well. I did think that we could approve an item either as requested or subject to stated conditions. But again, you're the law director.
I think in this case, though, we're trying to amend a side yard setback. His request was for a front and to have an accessory structure in the front yard. In this case, we're saying move its location in regards to the side yard setback, which the applicant didn't request anything in regards to the side yard. Is that what
Myers trying to?
Would he need a side yard setback?
No, the minimum, it can't be any closer than 8 feet, and he's well away from his side yard.
He could amend his site plan.
He could amend, I think the applicant could amend his site plan and agree to moving the structure if the applicant is open to that.
He did agree to that, Rob. He's already agreed to
it. I guess Mr. Law Director, the motion that I attempted to make to clarify Ms. Williams' motion, is that something that could you draft an order that would be consistent with that? Did I state it with sufficient clarity?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll have to draw up an order. I have to drop an order based on your decision, and I'll put it in the order, and everyone will look at it and help me edit it appropriately. Yes, sir.
And Miss Williams, do you feel like my stated motion accurately portrayed what you were trying to say?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Thank you.
Then I guess I don't want to take the meeting back over, Ms. Kerr.
No, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
have a second.
I second it again.
All right, I want to make sure that we're in order with our motions. Miss Williams had started one. I think Mr. Corcoran finished that or revised that.
Perhaps it'd be simplest just to call it my motion,
Yeah.
as long as Miss Williams doesn't object.
I don't.
Okay.
Is there any such thing as a co-motion?
Okay, so Mr. Corcoran's motion replaced Miss Williams' motion, and who seconded that? Someone did before I
Ms.
did.
Longmire.
I
Ms.
did.
Longmire, okay.
Sorry,
Ready for-
Mr. Eggleston.
Okay, go ahead and tell us.
Okay. Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe.
No.
Ms. Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran.
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams. I'll go
Aye.
back. Oh,
Aye.
Mr. Williams, you're voting aye?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson is out. Ms. Kerr.
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
No.
Mr. Harden votes no. Ms. Longmire.
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Dykes.
No.
Mr. Dykes votes no. You have 5 aye votes and 3 no votes.
Okay, motion request approved. I think thank you, Mr. Eggleston.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Myers Morton, if I may.
Yes.
The findings of this board that allow the variance included man-made, like the pool, the lay of the land, the fence, the privacy fence next door, the structure where this house is, the trees, and the trailers. That was what this board, the reason. Is that correct?
I think there was also a topographical issue in the back.
Topographical, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I'll put that in the order. Thank you. Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, I think that takes care of our agenda items. Now we have some discussion items.
First discussion item is regarding agricultural zone, 1 house per acre for family members to temporarily take care of elderly. That's item 5A.
Okay, who is starting this conversation? Oh, Ms. Rowe?
I asked Mr. Morton to put both of these items on for us to discuss. I know before we had a problem with someone having almost 2 acres, but not quite. And I had actually discussed with codes about 3 months ago about this state law. And it was my understanding they were going to look at it and see if they could do it without people coming to us for permission to do that. So I thought that was my understanding that with codes under the citation for the state law, where number 2 says temporary family health care structures shall comply with any local requirements for accessory dwelling structures, that we could not by law still allow this extra building unless they had an entire acre. And that's why I had suggested discussing it, maybe asking county commission to amend the zoning ordinance in special circumstances to allow this so it would go along with state law for temporary structures. That was my whole thing in doing this, because we had all talked about how badly we felt about people that didn't quite have the land. But I don't see how we can vote for it, even with the state law, unless we change our local requirements on accessory dwelling units. Thank you.
I would interject that the codes office asked our previous representative from the law director's office if we could permit these through our office, if they met all of the requirements of the state law. Our previous representative didn't think we could. We've asked Myers to look at it, and Myers thinks we can. I'm gonna let him address that a little bit more, but I think it's a whole lot better process for us if we can permit them through this state law, because then once the home isn't needed, we can go out and actually have them remove that structure. You know, we could require a doctor's, I guess the doctor's orders each year for those structures, and when they no longer can provide that, then they would have to be removed. So, and I think it's been stated many times, when a variance granted, it's carried with the property. So, you know, they could forever have two structures. In the case of the state law, they can only have it as long as it's needed. With that, I'll let Myers interject here as he's reading some of the TCA right now.
And I can share this, email this law to everyone to review, but it says for under it, the statute is it's called first of all, it's called the temporary family health care structures, and it appears under Tennessee's zoning laws. And it requires or it says that zoning ordinances may consider as a permitted accessory use in any single family residential zoning district on lots zoned for single family detached dwellings, any temporary family health care structures that are for use by the caregiver in providing care for a mentally or physically impaired person, and on the property occupied by the caregiver as their residence. And it gives certain requirements before you're allowed to get such a permit, including, among other things, a doctor's note saying they need care. And the statute's only 5 sections, and it has definitions, and it defines caregiver as an adult. Doesn't say nurse, but it says an adult who provides care for a mentally or physically impaired person within the state who is related by blood, marriage, or adoption to, or shall be the legally appointed guardian of the mentally or physically impaired person to whom the adult is caring. And then it defines a temporary family health care structure, among other things, and that has no more than 500 gross square feet. It's primarily assembled at a location other than the site of installation. It's like it's assembled and brought and put there, sort of like a mobile home. It can only have one occupant. And so I was just made aware of this statute, and it seems to be, it's the state law that says this is how you are able to have a temporary structure put on someone's property that might violate the local zoning law ordinance, but it has to be removed within 6 months of where there's no more need for the caretaker. So I'm learning about this statute this time, and I'll put together a little memo and send it around on what the statute states as far as what Tennessee law is, and including that how our ordinances fit into the equation.
Thank you. Ms. Longmire, I think your hand was up, and then I saw you, Ms. Rowe.
Yes, I think definition is really important here. I would appreciate if Mr. Myers would send around a copy of the state requirements, but 500 square feet isn't very big. We've had cases where a family is caregiving someone and they're taking turns staying in the house, which means more than one person was in the house, there are a lot of things that we'll have to consider. And whether the county can create an ordinance that maybe is more suited to what we were thinking.
That'll be part of my memo. Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Ms.
Um,
Rowe?
Thank you.
Where I had a problem, Mr. Morton, was with the second part of that. You didn't read it yet. On the temporary family health care structure shall comply with any local requirements for accessory dwelling structures of this type. I don't see how we can get around that without help from county commission, and they could kind of piggyback it onto the state law so that codes could remove it and could require the healthcare letter and all that. But I don't see any way we can. I'm not an attorney, but I don't see how that complies with all local requirements for accessory dwelling units. I just have a problem with that portion of it.
Requirement that limits the number of
Okay,
dwellings.
I think Ms. Rowe, and I'll let Myers interject, I'll try to explain, that says an accessory structure, which we would apply the zoning regulations that apply to an accessory structure, not a second single family home. So an accessory structure would be allowed even if it was under an acre. So that's the way our office would interpret that and imply it, as long as Myers doesn't see it differently.
Okay.
That'll be part of our memo.
That would be great.
Yeah, so we would treat those as an accessory structure to the primary, not a second dwelling unit, because it's only a temporary unit that we would allow there.
Is there a limit on the size of an accessory structure?
I think this TCA says they can only have 500 square feet space, so it can only be like a small mobile home or maybe even a camper or an RV. It would have to be under 500 square feet.
Yes, sir. And reflecting back on the two that we've had this year, the two that we've had previously, neither of them were requesting something that small. I'm not sure.
No.
No, neither of them were requesting something that small. So, and then the restriction of only one person living there. Those two things just probably won't fall in line with what the people will be asking for or what they need. So, yeah, those two things, because both situations, they were moving in a mobile home or whatever. And our first situation, he was going to move his family in with him, I believe. So, I mean, he and his wife were going to live in there. So, I mean, to limit it to one person is going to make it even more difficult.
Well, I believe you said I think that's what you said, that's kind of the law. That's what you're reading right now. I mean, it's an option, I think better than what we had previously. Would that be correct?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking codes or.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kerr, could you repeat?
I understand what Ms. Williams is saying, and I'm trying to determine where we're going and what we're doing with the discussion. You found some information, I think, that's helpful, that would give some type of assistance to someone who needed to do this. I agree, 500 square feet is not a lot, and probably hard to have one person in, but it's something there that gives somebody something to start with anyway. So I guess that's what you found in a law that would be something that we would be able to then approve. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. And we could actually
Okay.
approve that in our office. We wouldn't even have to come before
Okay,
the board.
perfect.
We could just approve in our office and
Okay.
we would get the required documentation and, once they couldn't provide that documentation any longer, then we could order the structure removed.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Okay.
Ms. Rowe?
From what I'm hearing, this can be done without a vote or anything from us, even on our discussion here. And I just wondered if we could get in touch, or codes could get in touch with the man that made the first application and say this state law is now being cited, because I asked about it in that meeting and nothing was said about it. And that's why I went to codes about it, about the state law, because I mentioned it very first. So could we go back and ask him to reapply and waive the fee even? And I don't know if that's a possibility, but I just wondered. Thank you.
We'll see what we can do. We'll look back and see if we can find him. I think that was the January meeting. We'll look back and see if we can find and contact them and tell them we can permit a 500. I think his structure was much larger than 500 square feet, but we can give him the state law and he can provide us, if he can provide us something, the doctor, we can permit him there.
Thank you.
We'll look into that.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Rowe?
Ms. Williams, did you have something?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Ms. Rowe, thank you so much for digging into that and getting what we needed to a better understanding and be able to better serve our constituents.
I thank Mr. Morton, because I talked to him several times. I think he was kind of tired of me and ready to change his phone number. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. I think it will help.
Thank you both.
Mr. Harden?
It's not just as simple as moving a mobile home or a structure in there. It's also got to be connected to the sewer system or septic system or something like that. So I think that needs to be included in the whatever we come up with. I mean, we don't want just a camper out there with no septic system. That wouldn't be good for anybody. Just a thought.
Yeah, and maybe I got misquoted on the camper. We don't think it could be a camper, but our office would, before we permit, ensure that it is up to either a sanitary system or a septic system. It's a septic system, they would have to get a letter from the health department that, the septic would handle the additional bedroom that can be added. So we would ensure that as we permitted them.
And of course, on that first application, the pad and the septic system was already there from a previous structure they'd had there. So they would fall, they would still qualify.
It was good ask.
Well, thank you for looking back into that. That'll be nice. Okay, was there anything else on 5A that we needed to discuss or chat about? No. All right, 5B.
Again, I brought this up. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm talking too much today. But on this one, it seemed like we've had an awful lot of just simply pie-shaped lots. And the reason I asked that question was, is that enough to consider exceptional? Now, I know we've had some that were kind of diagonal and then they turned back the other way like a dog leg, but on the pie-shaped ones, is that simply enough to be considered an exceptional situation where a variance could be approved on that site, on that shape lot? That was my question, why we put it on here. Thank you.
This is Myers Morton. I'm gonna apparently need 2 memos because I need everyone to see my research and what I'm finding. And the chairman Cochran and I have had one discussion about this, but I know, and I go back to I sort of talked about it earlier in our training. Tennessee law, more specifically 137109, powers of the Board of Appeals. It says what powers this board has on making a variance and on the question of pie-shaped or irregular shaped lot. And I, as lawyers do, I parse the language, words have meaning. And so under paragraph 3 of that statute, it says, the first phrase is where by reason of unusual or exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of this specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the regulation. Then it says or, and it goes on. Okay, let me repeat that phrase. Where by reason of unusual and exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of this specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the regulation. As I said here, at the time of the enactment of the regulation, it is Knox County zoning ordinances. And they were enacted in 1990. So my current view is that first phrase says a pie-shaped, irregular lot that was set up by a plat that was recorded in the register of deeds prior to 1990. Yes, that is a ground that this board has power to grant a variance. And you have to give meaning to the words. Okay, so that's just part of the equation. So the question is, I repeat the question, does the shape of a lot allow this board to grant a variance? Well, the first answer is as long as that lot was in its configuration when the zoning ordinance was passed in 1990, yes. Then the question is, what about a lot that was a plat that set up an irregular, odd-shaped lot was configured in a plat that was recorded after 1990? Well, then I would suggest we look further into this statute to see if there's other powers that might fit into. And I know I'm wordsmithing and looking at words, and this is ongoing research, okay? It's new for me, but lawyers look at statutes and have to see what the words mean, and the plain meaning of the words are what we follow. Okay, so that first phrase, I think, and I don't mean, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but to reiterate, if a lot is irregular shaped and it was recorded in the register of deeds and configured before 1990, yes. And I think a couple of the February items where this board allowed a variance based on irregular shaped lots, the plats were recorded before 1990. And in those orders I sent around, I drafted, I made that observation in your orders. So the first sentence, yes, an irregular shape of a lot prior to 1990 does allow this board to grant a variance. Then let's go further though. After that phrase, it says, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary or exceptional situation or condition of such property. Well, like I said earlier, I looked up the word topographical, and that includes man-made factors. Well, a lot's man-made. So there is an argument, a viewpoint that this second phrase includes an irregularly shaped lot. But topographical also says man-made and natural. So a consideration of that second phrase is going to be what's on the ground. Hills, steepness, creeks, trees, anything that would show up on a map, okay? So the second phrase may or may not include an irregularly shaped lot, depending on when it was created. And then another factor is you have to consider, I can see the logic in saying that a lot, an irregular shaped lot that pre-existed the passage of the zoning ordinance, I can see the logic in that, because when county commission passed the zoning ordinance, it became law, and anything created thereafter is subject to the zoning rules. So I know that's not a definitive answer, but I'm confident that a irregular shaped lot it was in effect before, and someone owned, was in existence before the zoning ordinance. I believe the timing would allow this board to consider just the shape of the lot if it was in existence before the zoning ordinance was passed. If the lot is created in an irregular shape afterwards, you have to look a little deeper and further and have more reasons other than just the irregular shape. Depends on the circumstances. It depends on which zoning ordinance you're looking at. It depends on, as we pointed out earlier, we can't, whatever your decision is, it cannot have any substantial detriment to the public good, and it cannot impair the purpose of the zoning laws, the zoning ordinance, and the zoning plan. I know that's a long response to your question, but I will, if the board will allow me, I'll have 2 memos coming to you. Because y'all need to know this, and I need to know it too. I mean, you don't want to exceed your powers, so.
I do appreciate it. It clarified a lot of things for me. Yeah, because we've had several over the past 4 years that I've served. We've had several where they were self-created situations by the developer or the or whomever, and they expected to come get a variance or for us to allow them to build on it when they self-created the problem, whether it was dealing with setbacks or topography or whatever, but it was certainly planned after 1990. And we've granted some of those, whereas we should not have. And I also feel that with this new insight and information, it should be publicly known or shared with the developer so they don't come in here with that anymore, so they can be made aware that won't work anymore. I'm glad for that.
Miss Longmire, you had your hand up? You're on mute. You're on mute. Oh, you're still on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree to a certain point, but the best building lots have already been taken. There are very few lots that don't have topographical issues or whatever. And developers do try to get the greatest number of lots within a development. But we live in a hilly area. We live in an area that has sinkholes. We live in an area where the underlying rock makes it difficult to put stuff with. So it's more than just telling people that they can't do it. It's looking at what is available now in this area. I think that we're all aware that there's a great demand for housing in this area, and we're just not being able to meet that demand. So we're going to have to build on areas that before we would not have considered.
Thank you. Mr. Corcoran, your hand's up.
Yeah, just in response to what Ms. Longmire was saying, I think my understanding of the statute that the law director was pointing out, the situations where you look at the lots in place at the time of the creation of the ordinance just deals with lot shape, not with the topography issues. So I think that I don't think it's going to be impacting the same types of cases that Ms. Longmire is thinking of when we're looking at this, because this is really just when we're looking at, according to the statute, at least my look at it, and Mr. Law Director can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're supposed to be looking at when the lot was created solely with regards to the shape cases, not so much the topographical cases.
That's the way I read it so far, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Just like you, that's correct.
Right.
I agree.
One thing I would like to.
But does not topography,
It's another factor.
The topography could be a factor on all lots is the way I'm hearing it.
Right.
So we wouldn't be blaming a developer for trying to develop a particular lot based on the topography, but if they divided up a lot and just made all sorts of screwy shapes, and if they're dividing up now, I think that's a different situation. The issue I've got and would like the law director to take a look at is the timing of it isn't referenced anywhere in our ordinances that I can find. And in fact, it's one of our particular ordinances that talks about what we can base our decision making on. It's conspicuously absent. And so I'd like to see if, depending on what the law director's research reveals, I'd like to consider us making some sort of resolution asking that the ordinance be amended to squarely line up with the language in the statute, so that, because I know most of the time I'm looking at the ordinances, not at entire volume Tennessee code. And if our ordinances more closely line up with the statutes, it will probably help us do our job a lot more effectively.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone else have any other, raise your hand if you have any other comments, or Ms. Rowe?
Thank you all for taking time to do that. Those
Oh,
were two
thank
things
you.
that were really on my mind.
Thank you.
That was good conversation.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
Does this go into training minutes?
It should.
It should. It really should.
All right, we'll let the law director decide that. And if that is all, then I will adjourn this meeting.
You all take care.
Thank you.
thank you.